Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more Better Call Saul. Unfortunately, I'm sorry it's a little bit later than usual because I didn't have any way to watch it until Amazon came out. I had YouTube TV but couldn't afford it after my trip. Maybe next week I'll be able to buy it again. So anyway, we're talking about the guy for this. Episode 3, full spoilers like at the beginning of the episode here, the promo. Big episode though. A lot of cool things, a lot of big moments, a lot of firsts, and a lot of imagery. We also have a very great veteran character actor show up in this episode that I was insistent that's who it was, but I missed him in the beginning of the credits. I was trying to find him on IMDb. It wasn't even listed in this actor's IMDb page. So I almost feel like that's like they're not always accurate and stuff, but it's kind of a big deal for them to miss this actor because nobody wrote down who this actor was. I've looked at other people's articles for this episode. Nobody brings up who this guy was, and I think that's a shame because this guy, to be completely honest, didn't even know he was still alive, and it's so nice to see that he's still alive and kicking and still ornery as hell. Alright, so let's talk about the guy for this. Now, there's a whole lot of things you could say about the beginning, probably, of the ants and the ice cream cone and how it starts and how it ends. There's all these there are several things in this episode that have like a moment that you see at the beginning and then how it seems at the end. Kind of like what happens with when Kim is on the balcony and then how, Jimmy's on the balcony. So like first we see the ants, one ant getting on the ice cream cone, getting stuck, climbing its way to the top until it's just a swarm all over this sweet little treat that's left on the, everybody clamoring all over it. Until when he comes back, it's just this mess. I'm not 100% on what that is, and I'm sure some of you out there will tell me the meaning of this, and that's great, because that's why it's great to have a community. So that you guys can fill in some of the philosophical things that I'm not going to be able to talk about at 3:27 in the morning, which is when I'm recording this. I'm doing it this early because I got to get up and donate plasma in a couple hours anyway, and I went to bed at like 8 just so I could watch this. So Jimmy's in the back seat of Nacho's car. It's pretty much the beginning of his criminal lawyer career, really. This is him, like, he defends criminals, but now this is like his first real foray since becoming Saul into what will become the criminal lawyer. And as you can see, it's kind of like he opened himself up to this kind of thing by being who he is. And now that he's in for the duration, and this is the thing that kind of bites him in the ass in the end. If you could kind of say that a lot of it, what happens in the future, stems from this point right here. We also get the usual colloquialisms of him, like water under the bridge in this episode. Let's talk turkey, all that stuff. The way he gesticulates and moves around and stuff. When so he gets brought to Eduardo Salamanca, who again is just played brilliantly by this guy, and Jimmy's kind of trying to dance his way out of this when there's really no way out of this, and once he realizes that, it's kind of like sad to know that that's where like this is just the beginning of this guy making some wrong choices, and this is where it gets him. When they talk about Tuco, even when he talks about Tuco, he tries to dance it up and make it shine. He takes a turd and tries to polish it up. So it's like, Tuco, he's a maniac, he's a psychopath. So Jimmy calls it, he's got a huge heart and a passion for justice. But, they all know who he is. He just doesn't want to insult them because you never know what they're going to do to you. You have to let them say the horrible thing that they can say it, but you can't. He's like, yeah, he's got a pretty bad temper, doesn't he? I mean, they even recall stuff from like the first episode, which when he had those two guys that looked like the guy from Silicon Valley, uh, call his abuelita a biznatch. Long memory. That's what I mean. Like you can't say these things; they will remember. Um, so their whole proposal to him is to get Domingo. I forgot that's what his name was in the Breaking Bad universe. Uh, they call him Crazy Eight now. They want him to tell the cops certain things. This is all about setting up Gustavo Fring. Um, because if he goes in there with attorney-client privilege, they can't listen in. They can coach him what to say, and they need a criminal lawyer. Now, I don't know why Jimmy went so low on his little his estimate for $7,925. I would have gone much higher than that. It's kind of like the kid in Road to Perdition who's like, "Can I have $100?" And he's just like, "Sure." And he gives him the $100, and he's like, "Oh wait, could I have had more?" You'll never know. I really think, I really think he should have went a lot higher on that because, if you're in, you're in. But it's a funny moment. I think it's a pretty funny choice to make. Like he's just pulling a number out of his ass. Um, we switch over to Mike really quickly. He only has one scene in this episode, and Jonathan Banks is so great at this character. This is probably his best role of his career. Um, he's admittedly said how grateful he is to have this show. I think it means a lot to this guy. You can tell. He's almost broken down a couple of times at some of the events that AMC has aired with him on it, and it's I gotta say really from going from his roles he always plays the heavy, but this is if you're gonna play a heavy, play a be the most memorable heavy in the world, and Mike is gonna go down as one of the best, most fleshed out heavies in television history. And so it's we're seeing him at this really low point. And I want to bring up something that somebody I've been having a conversation with somebody on in the chat about Mike and his background. Um, we were talking about whether or not Mike kind of has a break with reality here, because in Breaking Bad, it's all kind of about the timeline. And if the timeline is this small, that means that Saul really wasn't practicing as Saul Goodman for that long. Because if you really think about it, with everything that happens here, it says that the Breaking Bad universe really is about to crash into Walter White's story is about to start. It feels like, and by about I mean maybe within a year. So it could still play out the way it plays out. But we had this theory that what if Mike had a break with reality, and that he in the park at the end of Breaking Bad, when he and spoilers if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, shame on you. Um, when he leaves his granddaughter, which he would never do, right? You would think that he would never do this, but he does. Um, was she even there? Was he just kind of thinking that he was taking care of her? Now, the more I think about it, and after seeing this episode, I start to think that theory is probably not correct, because the timeline to Breaking Bad seems a lot closer now because of this, and that'll become obvious. I mean, if you've seen the episode, then you know what I'm talking about. But it was a nice theory to bounce around, and I appreciate that discourse I had with that commenter. Um, but he's in the bar and he's getting wasted. And again, he's just sliding down after killing Werner, and he sees that postcard of the Sydney, amphitheater, and it's like whenever he's reminded of anything, he starts to lose it. Look at everything. Anytime somebody talks about his son, he can't hold his temper. Like last week, he almost hurt his granddaughter. He was really close to hurting her. And, he sees that Sydney amphitheater that Werner's father had built. He was the mastermind behind. He wants it taken down because he can't just, it's like a reflection in the mirror, even though I love the mirror images in this as well. The way they shot that was really cool. Even though it's just, hey, let's put the camera back here so we can get two viewpoints. Also made me think of The Shining for some reason, the scene with Jack Nicholson at the bar for some reason. And so he eventually gets it taken down and drunkenly walks home and kicks, basically breaks the arm of this guy. These guys try to jump him. They're gonna try to take his money, and he just takes one of those guys and just brings him down to the ground. And after telling them that he's got a lot more than $20, and the only part is I kind of found it weird that these guys didn't all just jump on him and beat him down. I mean, yeah, they took out he took out one of your guys, but there were four more of you. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just meant to show how much Mike intimidates people, as you're about to see behind me. And that's it for Mike. It just keeps showing him on a downward spiral. So, what brings him back up? What gets him out of this? Because it has to be something, because when we see him working with Gus later, he does not seem too haunted at that point. But he also, and doesn't he kind of become a private detective? So maybe that's part of it. So we get Kim and all her pro bono work that she's doing, making her feel like a lot better about her life, feeling like with purpose. That now that she doesn't work for Hamlin, and now that she's under the thumb of Mesa Verde, all these things that she got what she wanted, and it's still not what she wanted to do, and all these pro bono cases make her feel like a real lawyer rather than helping out rich people get rich, And this is where I mean, one of the contrasts of, Jimmy's coming home after his encounter with the Salamancas and Nacho, and she's up in the balcony drinking. And he goes up there and takes her bottle and puts it to the side, and she can't take her eyes off that bottle. She's constantly looking at this empty bottle balancing on the edge, ready to break, and it's bothering her. And what I like is that she, you don't know that Jimmy notices. But by the end, we know that he did notice that she couldn't stop looking at the empty bottle that was about to fall over and break. And so, after they have their little discussion about their day, as she walks past, he talks more about Saul bothering her more, internally bothering her more. When she walks past, she grabs the bottle and leaves. And then we have Nacho's dad, who is great. This is his, he tells Nacho that the guy comes to him with money to buy his place. It's your chance to retire, Dad. But his dad sees right through this, that this is Nacho's money. He was put up to this to get his dad to run. But he won't run. He's proudful. He's pride. His pride is, a lot of characters in these shows, in this universe, have a problem with pride. But in this case, it's pretty justified. He doesn't want his son's problems to make him run. He'd almost rather die than not stand up for who he is and what he is. Better to die on one's feet than live on his knees. And once you start running, you never stop, really. And I can kind of relate to that in a way. And I'm not going to get into it, but I mean, let's just say that for a good part of my life, I felt like I was running from something. Didn't really have to, but it felt like I was. And it felt like forever before you could finally stop. It feels like, in some ways, I've never stopped running, if you know what I mean. I'm not running from anything, I don't have some secret past, where I'm not really Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews. I've got, some secret, I'm really, Darren from Tacoma, who, is running from a hedge fund problem or something. I don't know. But he stands his ground and tells his son he's not going to run. And Nacho just he keeps trying to, because after what his life was he doesn't know that his life was threatened by Gus Fring, and so this is Nacho's way again of trying to force it, like by not looking like it was him, but his father sees right through it. Kim losing her motion in court, and getting the call for Mesa Verde. Again, Mesa Verde coming calling. Like, she thinks she has a day to, like, just do what she wants to do, and which is help people in trouble. No, seeing it just keeps coming back at her. And now she has to deal with the guy that she, got in bed with Coakley, who's now telling her, this is sorry, Kim, but this is part of the deal. Like, they keep the lights on. Sometimes you got to just go and do what they want when they call. And, she doesn't like that. Who would? Who wants to be at somebody else's beck and call? She had it almost better with Hamlet. So she has to have her associates go on and take her cases and go running to Mesa Verde because, they're her owners and they never like to let her forget it. Again, once you're in, you're in. So for Kim, Mesa Verde is her Salamancas, her Frings, and she can't just get out from under it unless she wants to blow up her life, which I'm pretty sure she wants to at this point. So coming up next, we get, it's really cool to get more background on characters like Domingo or Crazy 8, however you want to say it, because he's such an important character to the evolution of the Walter White character. It's nice to see more of like how he got to where he will be. Little characters like this, and it's nice to see these actors get more work and get to play these characters that you kind of wanted to see more of in the bigger universe. And it's really one of the great things about Better Call Saul, that just is unprecedented, is a prequel that feels necessary, that's filling in gaps character-wise, motivation-wise for these characters that when you watch Breaking Bad will change the way you look at the show and probably even make you feel even like it's more tragic in a way. But it gives us more context and paints a bigger picture. And this is where I know everybody popped a huge old, because all of a sudden Dean Norris and Steven Quesada show up as Hank and Steve Gomez. And it was, here's the thing, I didn't freak out. As soon as I saw the bald head, I was like, oh my God, it's Hank. Oh my God, it's Hank. But it was all internalized because I knew it was coming, and it just felt like like just stepping right back into it. Like, not like some shock, not like some big old like, I'm sure there are reaction videos where people were just shitting themselves over like they always do on reaction videos, where it's just, oh my God, it's Hank, and probably some tears were probably shed. I mean, seriously, come on, guys. Reaction videos, man. Reaction videos. I don't know. If that's what you like, I can't fault you. They're not my bag, baby. So Hank and Steve show up, and this is just fantastic, though. It is great to see Dean Norris back. As, like, again, probably the best role of his career. And he's been in everything. Going back, he was in X-Files, Season 2, F. Emasculata, about a plague that was running through a prison, and he played one of the SWAT guys that was supposed to take out an escaped prisoner. Wow, I pulled that out of my ass. So that's how far back I remember him and things like that. In fact, I think he was in Lethal Weapon. I think he was one of the cops in Lethal Weapon. Maybe it was Lethal Weapon 2. I think it was Lethal Weapon 2. Their first whole conversation is just, I love it. It's just natural partner conversation. Expired food banks, and expired frosted vanilla. Just they're back and forth. It's like just stepping right back into those old shoes, and that's why it was easy not to just freak out that it's them. because it just feels natural. It's just a part of the story, easing back in, filling in the gaps. This is where we see Domingo's background with the DEA and Hank's character. This is where he became the CI. If you remember, that was a part of the whole thing, is that he went missing, and they didn't know what happened to the guy. They probably figured he was popped by somebody in the drug game. And this is where it happens. This is where it starts, where they go in there. He says he knows where $500,000 in drug money is, and Hank is introduced to Saul Goodman, and he gets the name right away because Hank's not an idiot, even though he did miss the biggest drug kingpin in Albuquerque, and twice. Think about that. He didn't know Fring. He was right under his nose, and he also didn't know that Walter White was, making meth right under his nose as well. So, I mean, Hank's a smart guy, but I think he lacks vision and imagination a little bit. But that's not a diss, okay? I know some people are like, shut the fuck up. Hank is the best character in the world. And he's one of the greatest. He's the hero of the story. And heroes die sometimes. But he gets the name right away. It's all good, man. Like, that was great. That was like probably my favorite moment of Hank's scene, was him just not being fooled by Jimmy's name. I think he understands like the low level people a lot more. I think because he deals with the low level people, he never really see him get the big guys. Tuco, I think, was his biggest get, and it kind of almost it was about to make a name for him until what happens. But Saul and Domingo put on this little show of like, we're not going to talk, you're not going to talk, I want to talk. Like, this conflict they're faking in front of them, I think is really hilarious, because they're about to leave, they get them to come back and say, hey, we make him a CI, we give you the dead drops if they get to arrest, then he gets to go free. And so it's really cool to see that this is where it was all started. And I know this is not the end of seeing Hank and probably Steve Gomez in the show, because the trailer next week kind of shows them, I think, like following him around or like keeping tabs on him. But we all know that this is all a setup from Lalo Eduardo to get Fring and to hurt Fring financially. He's using what Hector facially told him and by the bells what to do to hurt Fring and to maybe get Fring. But we all know how it turns out. So it's basically just waiting to see how close they get to stopping Gus and can't. And this is where we get Kim after she goes out to the desert to where where Mesa Verde wants to put another bank, I'm assuming. And we are introduced to, well, it's his only episode, I'm assuming, but veteran character actor Barry Corbin. Okay, everybody talks about Mr. Acker, the character Mr. Acker, but nobody talks about that is played by Barry Corbin, who is very old in this. But I was like, that's him. As soon as I heard the voice, as soon as I saw the face, you could just tell that was Barry Corbin. If you don't know who Barry Corbin is, he goes like, I think if you ever saw Northern Exposure, he was I think he was like the town big shot, right? He's one of those guys who's good at playing that kind of guy. And in this, he's playing a man who's holding on to his land, even though he's pretty much lost his rights to it. And Mesa Verde's trying to buy him off cheap. And it's all about pride again. Like, this is my land, basically you're going to kick me off when I'm dead. And he kind of yells at her, telling her, you're the kind of person that, gives a little bit to charity to make yourself feel better. And that really cuts her deep because of what she doesn't want Mesa Verde to be the thing that defines her. It's the thing that pays the bills. It's the thing that keeps the roof over her head and a nice car. But it isn't who she is. But that's how people are seeing her now. She wants to help the little guys, and in turn, sometimes she has to hurt the little guys. And so she leaves with this guy giving her, like, I love the line, I'm going to sit here with my legs wide open so you can give me a swift kick in the nuts. I love it. And I got to applaud whoever cast Barry in this role because it's great. And it's so good to see these guys, like people like Ed Asner popping up still. A lot of really great character actors are still alive and kicking, and it's great to see them get work. Um, and when she turns around on him and yells at him, she's basically telling this character, this actor, it's the character of Mr. Acker, what she wants to tell Jimmy. That you think you're special, you think you can just break the rules. You can't. You're not allowed to do that. And she's letting her frustration out on him about Jimmy and about a lot of things. And she leaves and comes back later. And basically, she tries to tell him, like, I'm not this person. I'm like you. I come from nothing. And he's basically just unmoved. You'll say anything to get what you want. And that, again, keeps cutting her to the bone. And again, in the comments section, a lot of people, we've been discussing what's the future of Kim. And I don't know. I don't think I don't know if I really don't know what's going to happen to her. It's the biggest mystery, I think, on the show, more than anything, is what happens to Kim. I don't think she's going to be murdered by the cartel or anything like that. And I don't want to say that she would do anything to herself after what happened to Chuck. But it's not out of the realm of impossibility. And like I said, maybe she gets disbarred at some point and just leaves. I do think it is a possibility that they get married in an act of desperation to help Jimmy out of a jam, maybe. But we all know that he's not married in Better Call and Breaking Bad, so there's just all these theories. It's fun to speculate about, but I think we all need to take a collective breath and just let things happen. But it shows how much people care about Kim Wexler, a character that we'll never see again, unless maybe she shows up at the very end in the future. Who knows? So Saul now is in like Nacho, and he gets back out of the car, sees the ice cream mess. So again, going all the way back, it's just a mess now. After everything's been run over it just doesn't even look like it was when it started. This little happy little ice cream cone is now just... And so Nacho goes back to Fring, trying to set him up, talking about the money. If you take the money, they'll know somebody snitched. It's all about hurting Gus, and Gus won't give in. Gus is going to let it play out, because Gus plays a long game. I'm pretty sure that he knows that none of this makes sense. And that's why he's not going to make a move. I think he knows that he is being pushed into a move, and he might even know that Nacho is part of it. Nacho's screwed. There's no way out for Nacho, and I feel like no matter what happens, his father and himself might both be done. I'm pretty sure Nacho's not living through this. Because again, we never see Michael Mando's character ever again. Now, and we know the history of these kind of characters. They don't make it out. It's just a fact. For the most part, you don't see them in the end credits, like post-credit scene, all of a sudden sitting on a beach, like at the end of Shawshank Redemption, like in San Guantanamo, waiting for Morgan Freeman. That doesn't happen. He ends with him shot in the back of the head and his dad laying next to him, buried in a hole in the desert. So, sad, but he did it to himself, and it's tragically he'll probably take his father with him. Although that scene with his father made me think, is he the one that ran the furniture store, or is that a tire store that he runs? Because if it's the furniture store, and I forget that Domingo worked for a furniture store, but I don't think they're related. I think that's unrelated. I think I'm making a connection to something that's not there. But at the very, very end, we get the role reversal again. Now Jimmy's up on the balcony as Kim comes home from her bad day. Her version of the Nacho Eduardo situation and the DEA. And he's up there with he gives her a beer, she lights up a cigarette, and he's messing with the beer. It shows that he knew that it bothered her, like, whoa, like that you were worried about breaking this? Oh, you worried about breaking this? And I think that in his way, that's him saying we need to break something, like we need to let it out. And so they do. They let it out by throwing the bottles into the parking lot and alerting the neighbors, and it's just them getting their frustrations out by destroying something that they were enjoying. Kind of like the destruction of the ice cream cone by the ants. I don't know. I'm not a psychology major, and I'm not a philosophy major, and I'm not any of those things. I just pull things out of my ass sometimes that I think I understand. So, that is the guy for this. I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. Each episode keeps getting better and better, and again, I don't know why the Emmys keep ignoring this show. It's better than a lot of other things on TV. Especially, it's definitely probably like in the top 3 shows that are on right now. Not even definitely, it definitely is. And this, to me, is the best show on TV right now as we speak. So, anyway, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, hit the bell for all notifications so you know when my videos are coming up. And you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Otherwise, this is Rob. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Better Call Saul. Bye.